back on record, the time's 11:24 a.m.
I meant to ask you this earlier. You understand that as a corporate rep, your answers are binding on the corporation today, right?
Yes.
I want to show you what I'll attach as Plaintiff's Exhibit 7. And this is a Invitation Homes final punch list. This one's from 2013. The writing's small, but to me it looks like August 9th, 2013. Do you see that?
I do.
So I want to go through some of the punch lists, and I've highlighted the portion pertaining to smoke detectors. And what I've done is just kind of blown it up where it's easier to see it on the very bottom of the page. So in terms of this final punch list, it shows where it will say yes, NA, not applicable, and then yes again. It says GC, super. I guess both have to sign off.
That's correct.
Okay. And so for the smoke detector in particular on this one, it says working properly after test, new batteries and all smokies. Smokies, I guess, is smoke detector.
That would be my guess.
Okay, we'll go with that. And then on this one in 2013, it says yes and yes. So that would indicate that the smoke detectors were operational and new batteries were installed.
That is what I would, conclude based on what I'm seeing.
Sure, so this is a checklist, so
Yeah.
if Invitation Homes or someone at Invitation Homes Realty wanted to verify, they could go through the punch list and say, oh, it looks like we did everything we're supposed to.
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, a punch list is super common
Yes.
in the construction industry,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next one, and this is, I'll attach this one as Plaintiff's Exhibit 8. So this is a residence condition form, and looks like it's dated October 19th, 2015. Are your eyes good enough to see that small
They
print?
are.
Okay.
They are, fortunately.
So what is this document versus the punch list? Are you familiar with this document?
I am. This is the Invitation Homes inventory and residence condition form. And so I referred to earlier a move-in, move-out checklist.
Mm-hmm.
This is the move-in, move-out checklist. Here it's referred to as inventory and residence condition form. And so a superintendent fills this out at the move-in orientation with a resident and indicates any items that might need attention, or in some cases there could be aesthetic items that are as-is condition that we just want to note so that the resident isn't necessarily held responsible for that later.
Understood. And there's some, on this one, for example, there's some comments that are made. It says tile floor, some chips and cracks under first bathroom. So there's little comments that can be inputted on this, right?
That's correct.
Okay, now as I've taken out on one of the pages, I think it was page 2, where it says systems, and it says this is on the right side, and nothing was marked for smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. Do you know why?
Because there were no issues identified.
Okay, and then do you see the acknowledgement portion below?
I do.
And you would agree that, according to the policy that we read previously, that as part of the pro-care process, now this is 2015, so maybe it didn't apply then, but upon move-in, they're supposed to explain as part of the pro-care process how the smoke alarms work, right?
As you noted, this is 2015, so the ProCare program was not in place at that time. However, the superintendent with the resident will go through each of these items outlined here in the move-in, move-out form, or as referred to here, the inventory and residence condition form. They'll go room by room and make note of any issues or deficiencies that need to be addressed.
Okay. And under the acknowledgement, it says, resident has received written operating instructions for the alarm system. Resident has received written operating instructions for the gate access system. So that's if it applies, right?
Correct.
And then there's this part above that that talks about, let's see. That the resident acknowledges that the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, if any, are operable. The resident is solely responsible for replacing the batteries as needed in maintaining this detection equipment in accordance with the lease, applicable laws, and manufacturer's recommendations. Did I read that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, now, there's nothing that says that the tenant is responsible to replace the detectors, true?
No, it says that residents responsible for replacing batteries as needed and maintaining the detection equipment in accordance with the lease, and the lease would instruct the resident to make sure to report any issues. That's how I interpret this.
When it says resident has received written operating instructions for the alarm system, is that the smoke alarm system, or is that security alarm system, or what alarm system does that?
Because it's, if applicable, I would say that's security alarm systems, which we typically do not have in the majority of our homes, which is why it's optional on here. And same for gate system access, that's on a smaller percentage of our homes. More common in Florida, though, where we have more HOAs.
So prior to this move-in, there would have been a turn done, right?
That's correct.
And as part of the turn, as we discussed earlier, at that time, the smoke alarm's date should have been checked.
There would have been a checklist similar to this at the 2015 turn, and same as on this, they would have checked and addressed any issues that were observed.
Okay, and so as prior to the occupancy of this tenant in 2015, they would have, or were supposed to check the date on the smoke alarms, right?
Check the form.
Make sure that they're not expired.
Check the form.
My response to that would be that they would do what is outlined here, which is working properly after test, new batteries.
Okay, so, because I asked you about this earlier, I thought it was your testimony because I read to you what James Staples said. And he said that when they do a turn, they check the date. So is it your testimony now that when you do a turn, you don't check the date on the smoke alarms?
Are you talking about 2015
Yeah.
or current? Because your question didn't specify.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the policy in 2015? You want to check the dates?
There was no formal policy, as I noted. In 2015, we had guidelines, and I outlined in detail, we do the best we can to adhere to any guidelines in place and check safety equipment, but this is more vague, unfortunately, than the policy in April 2022. And so depending on when you're asking me the question, as an organization, we do our best to really update and enhance our policies, procedures, programs as time passes. And so I'm only going by in 2015 based on what I see here and what was in place 2013 to 2015. And once again, I wasn't even in the market, but as an organization, this would be what is noted, working properly after test, new batteries and all smokes. It doesn't specify that they're necessarily checking the date. Jim Staples' testimony is that our standard as part of our program instituted in April 2022 is that we're checking dates. And so now we certainly want to make sure that we're checking dates on smoke detectors.
Who's, in the lease agreement that, under that acknowledgement, does it state that the tenant is responsible to check the date?
I don't believe it specifies date in the lease agreement. It just specifies, responsible for checking smoke detectors, replacing batteries, maintaining equipment, I believe.
Okay, but whose responsibility, we talked about this earlier. Whose responsibility is it to change smoke detectors that are out of date?
Are you talking now, or what's our policy?
Say 2015?
Yeah, 2015, resident has a responsibility, as outlined in the lease, to report defective equipment. And then if something's reported and we certainly notice that it needs to be replaced, we'll replace.
Isn't their duty, though, does the Invitation Homes have a duty to inspect the smoke alarms to make sure that they're within the date?
As part of the turn, we're certainly inspecting the smoke detectors. I just can't clearly tell you that it specifies checking date here versus what the policy is today.
Did you work for Invitation Homes in 2015?
I did, yeah. I was the.
You don't remember what the policy was?
I was the director of operations in our Atlanta market, and there wasn't a formal policy. I can say that. I once again, going back to my statement earlier, it was formal guidelines in place to do our best to follow local municipalities and instruction.
So this is the next one that I have. I think it says 2018, but it's hard to read. Attached, this is Plaintiff's Exhibit 9. I think you said earlier the turns. Did you say that there was one in 2018 or 2019?
18.
18, okay.
I believe the 4 turns post-acquisition were 15, 18, 20, and 21.
So now we're about 3 years prior to the occupancy of Mr. Rhodes. Would have a turn been done prior to this move-in?
Yes.
And in terms of systems, smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are listed, but there's no input, right?
That's correct.
How do you know if it was actually done or not done?
If it was completed, there would be an indication, referring to the turn specifically for this home in 2018, it would have been indicated either on the scope of work, which is the budget that was done during the turn, or if discovered walking through the home and doing the move-in orientation with the resident, it would have been indicated here in systems under smoke detectors, and we would have had a deficiency list of those items in a subsequent work order that was created.
If everyone was doing their job?
Correct.
Let me show you in the next one. This is 2020. I'll attach this as Plaintiff's Exhibit 10. So it looks to me November 6th, 2020.
This one is a little harder to
Or
read, but I
November
believe
4th.
that's accurate.
Okay. So in this one, it goes through and for everything that's done, it looks like it says okay. Do you see that? So for example, living room, ceiling, okay. Woodwork baseboards, okay. Plug switches, AC vents, okay. Door stops, locks, okay. You see
That's
that?
right.
Okay. And then when it goes to systems for smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, it doesn't say okay, it just says nothing. Do you know why that is?
No?
Would that be an indication to you that wasn't checked?
No, not necessarily.
Well, why would everything else be checked okay or have a comment, and then for systems as it pertains to smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, nothing is checked?
Objective form, foundation.
It's a great question. I would say that it's hard to speculate the exact reason, but what I would say is a comment is typically required if there are issues that we want to note that are either aesthetic or items that need to be addressed through a work order or a deficiency list.
Let me show you the next one with Mr. Rhodes. I'll attach this as Plaintiff's Exhibit 11. So we discussed November 2021. Once again, we see, for example, exterior landscaping okay, sprinklers okay. You go down to living room, okay. Fireplace is not applicable because there's not a fireplace. And each one there's something filled in, right? On the left-hand side.
That's correct.
And then under systems, smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, there is no input. Would you agree with that?
Agree.
Why in this 2021 form is everything so detailed for everything else on the property where there's an input that says okay, but then for smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, there's no input?
I'd give a very similar response to the 2018 form. It's hard to be certain. It'd be speculation for me to understand why everything is marked okay when a comment isn't necessarily required. But yeah, I don't know.
Let me show you another one. I'll mark this as Plaintiff's Exhibit. This is also involving Mr. Rhodes.
This appears to be, is this the same form? Or?
Is it the same one?
I think it's the same form.
Okay, well then let me ask you about another one. Let's go through 2, 3, 4. So I want to go through a turn. I'll attach this one as Plaintiff's Exhibit 13. This is for a date of examination of 10/23/2020. I'll attach this as plaintiff's exhibit 13. So this is, it says date of estimation, October 23rd, 2020. And then there's itemized list of, it looks like, different things that were done at the property. Can you explain what this document is and what it's used for?
This is a scope that a superintendent would write when completing a turn. In this case, the turn, it appears in 2020.
Okay, were they required to do anything with the smoke detectors in 2020?
In every turn, once again, we want them checking the smoke detectors, and so if there was any action that needed to take place, it would be documented either in here on the move-in, move-out form or on the deficiency list with a subsequent work order. I'm going through the PTL or the scope right now to see if the smoke detectors are on here. It says repair of turn of living room. The very last item, number 4138750, replace 9-volt battery and smoke detector.
And we also have a receipt from November 4th, 2020, which I'll attach as plaintiff's exhibit 14. I only have one copy of this
That'll
one,
do
but
it.
you've seen it before.
It looks like smoke detector batteries in 2020 were replaced in the living room, bedroom 1, 2, and 3, according to this scope, which is, I believe, what this information is corresponding with. Repair smoke detector, install 10-year 9-volt battery.
Do you know, and now you're looking at the other exhibit, which I marked as plaintiff's exhibit 14. Are you aware, well, let me ask you this. If a smoke detector is out of date, is it okay just to install a new battery that lasts for 10 years instead of replacing the smoke detector that's expired?
Check the form, Foundation, you can answer.
As noted earlier, like based on the timing, you know, we're going to follow the policy that was in place, but you know, our expectation it would be that a superintendent or a maintenance tech, when out at the home, is inspecting the equipment and taking the appropriate action, whether it's replacing a battery, replacing the smoke detector.
Do you know if a 10-year lithium battery extends the life of the smoke detector by 10 years?
I don't know that.
If it was cheaper just to replace the battery instead of replacing the smoke detector, is that what would be preferred?
We would address the equipment if we determined it needed to be addressed. We wouldn't just replace the battery to take the cheaper route. We would make the decision based on what would help us to deliver a clean, safe, functional product.
Then there was another one, turn of scope for 11/8/2021. I'll attach this as Plaintiff's Exhibit 15. Was there any indication that the contractor was charged with checking the batteries or replacing the batteries as part of the turn in November of 2021?
I don't see any itemized, anything itemized on this one referencing the smoke detector or battery. This is the 2021 turn.
Okay, and I want to show you another log. Let's see here. So I want to show you the November 20th, 2021 Invitation Homes. That for you. I'll attach this as Plaintiff's Exhibit 16. Do you know what this is?
Yes. This is a work order, Procare work order specifically created at move-in. And so you see move-in date of 11/19. And this appears to be the 45-day visit. The creation of this work order was 11/20. So once again, at 45 days, 6 months, and then every 6 months after, the system generates Procare work orders. And so this work order was completed on 1/26/2022, according to this, by Edward Woods, which is an internal maintenance tech.
What was the last name?
Woods,
Thank you.
W-O-O-D-S.
Is there indication whether the tenant, Mr. Rhodes, cooperated with the Procare visit?
part of the ProCare visit and the policy would have been, it's outlined, and so we just can tell based on this that he completed the ProCare visit. And then there are, on the last page, some check-in, check-out questions that he would have responded to. So
Where's that at?
So on page 3, under checkout questions, you see, please describe the work performed during this visit. He says ProCare done. Did resident miss scheduled appointment? No. Were repairs or replacements caused by the resident occupants, guests, or pets? No. If the work order was completed on this visit, please remind the resident to complete post-work order survey and ask for the perfect score. I acknowledge I have notified the resident. Is there any additional work that is needed by another vendor to resolve the issue that is outside of your current scope? No. If the work order was completed on this visit, please remind the resident to complete the post-work order survey. He acknowledges notification. Is there any additional work that is needed by another vendor? No. Please describe the work performed. He says, I inspected the functionality of the entire home. I went over the responsibilities of the renter and the responsibilities of us as a homeowner. I also informed the resident where the water main was in case of an emergency. Did the resident miss a scheduled appointment? No. Were repairs or replacement caused by resident occupants, guests, or pets? No.
Okay. Is there anything in terms of the detail that's listed at 12:27:11 p.m.? Is there any specific mention of going over the functionality of the smoke detectors?
There's no specific mention of the smoke detectors. It does mention that he inspected the functionality of the entire home and went over the responsibilities with the renter and us as a homeowner. I believe we'll see an example later on of a subsequent work order that noted where an issue may have been addressed. So I know there are a couple others examples like this.
Okay, let's go to another work order. Now, also, I was going to ask you, actually, before we do the next one, it says on the left-hand side, middle, towards the top, it says, welcome, Michelle Texon. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm assuming that Ms. Texon is in-house counsel for Invitation Homes?
That's correct.
Okay. So in terms of the software where these documents were produced, I'm assuming that someone would have to log in and get these documents?
That's correct.
Okay. So Ms. Texon would have done that?
She provided these documents. That's accurate.
And so do you see, like, on the right-hand side, there's a portion that says overview, communication, check-in, out, proposal, invoice, attachment, event log, troubleshooting?
Yes.
So I'm assuming that those are tabs, and I could check on any of those tabs and see what information is there.
That's correct. And I believe we have, from what I reviewed in the documentation, I believe we have printouts or documents of some of the separate tabs. That's an accurate statement, though. You would be able to see additional detail if there is additional detail by clicking on those tabs.
Okay. And then it says, it's a ProCare visit because under additional details it says first ProCare visit, right?
That's correct.
Does that one, let me know if I see that real quick. Okay, so that's the event log. And then there's, I think for this one as well, there's the communication log. Let me show you that one, which I'll attach as Plaintiff's Exhibit 17. So on this one, she's just, Ms. Texon went over to communications, and this is what's in the communications folder, I would imagine.
That appears to be accurate. Same work order, communications tab, first ProCare visit.
And then there's, if you look at the check-in, check-out, looks like there's some photographs. It's on the third page. Is that part of the standard operating procedure to take a photo in and out to document the file?
That's accurate.
And then on the last page, it says, Monica Rankin added label deferred COVID-19 to work order. Do you know what that would refer to?
Where's that at exactly on
The
the
last,
third page?
very last page of that exhibit. It's on the
Monica
right
Rankin,
side.
got it,
Yeah.
1/3/2022. Yes, during the period following COVID-19, there was a deferral of ProCare work orders. It looks like in this case, this ProCare work order took place, though.
Okay. Why don't we take a break?
It's lunchtime.
We'll take a lunch break.
So
Okay.
off the record, the time is 12:01 PM.